Thank you so much, Neelam. Can everybody hear me and see the screen?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Really glad to have this opportunity to present this new study to everybody, and hope to get your advice as well as comments. Study is called Asian Cohort for Alzheimer's Disease (ACAD), and we just recently formally announced it to the public. And start with in this case, we're focusing on Asian Americans, Pacific Islanders in United States. That's where the motivation of the study came from. As you all know, is one of the is the fastest growing minority in the United States, and for this population, it's greatly urbanized. Many of them are living in metropolitan areas within their communities, and it's a very diverse group with different languages, diverse cultural lifestyles, and this is the population that we like to serve. And uh, disparity in medicine and also medical research is a issue, and it is an issue not just for Alzheimer's, for most disease studies, and it is a top topic last year that people are starting to be aware of this. And here's an example: the Alzheimer's disease sequencing project, when you count the number of genomes by populations, and this is like most other studies as well. You're going to have a big sample count for non-Hispanic whites. And for scientific reasons, you want to make sure your sample is homogeneous to give you a bigger statistical power. But on the other hand, there's going to be a lot of genetic variants that you only see in one population, but not in the others. And for a human genetic study, you can't find a gene if there's no variation in that gene. That's how the study goes. And uh, we're starting to be aware of this issue. And when you look at other populations, African Americans, Hispanics, there are active initiatives that's going to increase the numbers here to the order of 10,000 or more. But for Asians, that number is really small. This number is a little bit out of date, but still, we're talking about less than 1% of all the samples that we have, and that number is going to go up. But some of it is because of studies in Asia that don't necessarily reflect the Asian American population. So this is we got to invest more into the population in terms of medical research, and that's the motivation for our study. Well, it's not an easy thing to do. Otherwise, people have been doing it would have been doing this long ago. And here's some of the challenges that we're facing when thinking about recruiting Asian Americans. Um, it is a smaller population, which means recruitment is going to be more difficult. The other thing is the communities are not necessarily near the major Alzheimer's research centers, and we're talking about senior people who might not speak fluent English. It is harder to recruit them. And the last one is the language and cultural barriers. That not only means that you need to have bilingual staff to be able to speak to them and collect data, but also you need to review the way you're assessing them, collecting data. That actually reflects their culture, reflects their language. These are all a lot of work, and you have to do it for every population that speaks a different language. So it took a while, but I think it's at least 3 years in the making when we talk with different groups, institutions, investigators who are interested in this project and are committed to this cause. And we formed our teams called ACAT, and we made our public announcement last year, towards the end of last year, and we have a website here. Um, and I have the URL at the end, and hope if you have time to go there and have a look and let us know what you think. It is an epidemiological study that want to recruit participants and collect data. And the questionnaire we developed is actually based on many community standards. We tried to set it up as fast as we could, but still scientifically rigorous. We plan to collect bloods and also collect genetics. This is the main study. Scientific rationale is we want to understand more about the genetics of dementia in this population. And so the ultimate goal is to find more reliable AD diagnosis, accurate risk predictions, and so on, have clinical impacts for the population. but based on the data, based on the samples we collect. And this study, we actually have American and Canadian sites. And we're recruiting from 8 different sites, and we have a lot of investigators. Many of them, the study has 4 MPIs. Me, Helena Chu at who's director of USC Alzheimer's Center, Gyunga Jun, genetic epidemiologist by Boston University, and Van Park at UCSF, who's also on this work group, and she is the investigator for PI responsible for outreach, community outreach and recruitment. And I also saw that Victor Henderson's on the call, director of Stanford Alzheimer's Center, and he is co-chair of our clinical work group. And Brianna Vogel, Brianna is our the entire research coordinator for the entire project. But one of the things we want to do is we want to leverage the existing expertise as well as resources that NI has been investing. We want to uh, work with the community, work with them closely to improve the efficiency, so we can recruit more efficiently. This is a list of the different sites we're recruiting, and we're working with NACRAF for sample collection. NAC Bot is on our investigative team, and we got a lot of help from him in terms of the questionnaire and many different issues. ADGC will be responsible for genotyping, and the data will be shared through NIAGAS. And for these studies, we have 4 Alzheimer's research center who are collaborating and will be helping us with recruitment and outreach and so on. We receive a R56 2-year bridge funding to get the study started, and we're going to resubmit again for R1 in a year or so. And the initial plan, we're going to focus on 3 populations, in particular Chinese Americans and Canadians, but we're also doing smaller pilot studies on Korean Americans as well as Vietnamese Americans, and they're all of East Asian descent. So genetically, they're more homogeneous. We do think that it's important to study other major Asian American populations, in particular South Asians, Indian, Pakistani, as well as Filipinos, Southeast Asians. These are the second and third largest populations in Asian populations, in subpopulations in America, and we hope that down the road we'll have opportunity to start working with investigators who are dedicated to these populations, to study these populations. We'll collect blood in order to do biomarker study. I think it's just really important, and this has an opportunity to develop diagnostic criteria that is specific for the Asian American populations. We're developing ways to do remote recruitment assessment because of COVID. And for here, we're learning a lot of experience from the Alzheimer's centers who are already doing this. Leveraging existing resources, starting with the data collection packets that we're going to use. We spent a lot of time on this. It's going to be a 3-part process that collects the medical history, lifestyle risks, as well as cognitive tests and neurological assessments. And in particular, they're going to be, some of them will be translated. So you can, these are questions you can ask the participant. A lot of these participants, they're senior, they're probably immigrants, so they're not going to be good with English. We need to have bilingual staff who are properly trained to assess them and collect data. And we're going to use validated instruments for cognitive tests. In this case, there's CASI and 3MS, and they are already translated and peer reviewed in the literature for Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean. For the other parts, we're going to have forward translation with validation, with bilingual domain expert professionals. These are neuropsychologists or neurologists who are familiar with the assessment procedures and know the language. So we make sure that these are culturally sensitive and properly translated. And there are many challenges we're facing when developing the study, and still ongoing. Certainly, we need bilingual staff, which means recruitment is going to be more costly. The more populations you're recruiting, you need to increase your staff. But nowadays, we're doing a lot of things remotely. We hope that remote assessment allows us to be more flexible with matching the staff with the participants online. We want to approach participants with culturally sensitive respects. Some of the questions we have, well, it might not align with people's experience. For example, especially immigrants, it's going to be different for Asian Americans who grew up in America versus Asian Americans who immigrated came to the states, say after World War II or so, and they're gonna have a different childhood experience. And so when we're asking questions, we want to make sure we are respecting this, we're sensitive. Uh, what are we gonna give back to the community? That some of these things we're doing, they're not clear cap certified. So it's a challenge whether we can even return the results to them. And this is one thing where we would really appreciate the great work group's advice. And we want to give them regular updates. What are the things that best help them? Certainly, uh, like they have, if we establish relations with them long term. That's why we bring we have investigators who have close ties with the community. So they know that we're not there just to get their data and samples and go away, but we're like to build a relation with them. So if they feel helpless, they want someone to give them advice, they know where to go. And the last is there are certainly like certain conditions that if this happened, how do we deal with that? Say if we notice there's elder like abuse of the elderly, or if there's a case where you have someone who might have a suicidal risk, what do we do? For if they're recruiting hospitals, then you already have a physician there, so it's easier to deal with. Some of our recruitment activity is going to be done at a community setting, say at the church or community center, and that makes it more challenging. And again, we'd like to hear if there's any advice from this group that's how we're doing this, how we should do this. And so that's a quick introduction of our study. We are probably going to start recruiting, say, in March, later this year. And um, again, it's funded by NIA. I'm really grateful for the support. This is, I think, this is a really important project, personal to many of our investigators. So we appreciate NIA's strong support on this. And here's the website, acadstudy.org. And if there's anything that you'd like to discuss, please send me an email. Really looking forward to talking to everybody. Thank you.
Lisan, thank you so much for that overview. And I really want to hear